Ang next naman na example natin is yung grant na related sa non-depreciable asset. So, basahin muna natin yung standard bago yung example. PAS 20 provides that grant related to non-depreciable asset requiring fulfillment of certain conditions shall be recognized as income over the periods which bear the cost of meeting the conditions. So, dito yung ibibigay na grant ni government ay non-depreciable asset. So, requirements pa rin na magawa ni entity yung conditions na inattach ni government doon. And para naman dun sa grant income, same din yung pag-compute nun sa mga naunang example. Amount ng grant na na-receive, divide lang dun sa period kung hanggang ilang taon yung pag-bear ng cost para ma-meet yung condition. So, proceed na tayo sa example. An entity is granted a large tract of land in Mindanao by the national government. The fair value of the land is 60 million. The grant requires that the entity shall construct a building on the site. The cost of the building is estimated to be 100 million and the useful life is 20 years. So, add ko lang pala kapag non-monetary asset, minimeasure yun at fair value. So, ano ba yung mga non-monetary asset natin? Like land, building, equipment, etc. So, ayun nga, binigyan ni government ng land si entity and yung condition ni government dito is kailangan matayuan to ni entity ng building. So, lagyan na natin ng entries. Nung natanggap natin yung grant na galing kay government, i-debit lang natin yon, which is yung land, 60 million. Then credit sa deferred grant income dahil utang muna natin yun kay government. Next na i-entryhan natin is yung condition na ipapagawa sa atin ng government na kailangan natin tayuan ng building yung land. So, debit sa building, 100 million. Then, credit mo lang sa cash, 100 million. So, dahil nakakatayo na yung building, magsa-start na rin siya ng depreciation. So, paano nga ba ulit computein yung depreciation? Straight line method lang yung gagamitin natin dito. Yung cost minus salvage value divide sa useful life. Dahil wala namang binigay na salvage value sa problem, directly na natin siyang i-divide sa useful life. So, yung amount nung 100 million na building, divide mo lang sa 20 equals to 5 million. So, next naman na computein natin is yung grant income or yung na-earn na natin para sa ngayong taon. Paano nga ulit yung formula nun? Yung amount ng grant na na-receive natin divide sa useful life. And ano yung binigay na useful life sa problem? 20. So, yung grant na receive na natin na land, 60 million, divide lang natin sa 20 para makompute yung 3 million. Next example, grant received as financial aid for expenses or losses already incurred. So, related to dun sa past compliance na discuss ko kanina. So, basahin muna natin ulit. Una yung standard bago yung example. PAS 20 provides that a government grant that becomes receivable as compensation for expenses or losses already incurred or for the purpose of giving immediate financial support to the entity with no further related cost shall be recognized as income of the period in which it becomes receivable. So, sinasabi lang dito ng standard na kapag yung entity meron siyang expenses or losses na na-incurred in the past, then nakatanggap siya ng amount galing kay government para ipamalit doon sa nagastos niyang yon, automatic daw na yung na-receive niyang yon is i-record niya agad as income. So, bakit? Kasi dun sa ibibigay ni government, wala siyang condition na hihingin or wala siyang hihinging kapalit sa'yo. Ang intention niya lang dito is makatulong sa'yo. So, bigyan natin ng example. An entity received grant of 50 million from the USA government to compensate for massive losses incurred because of a recent earthquake. So, dahil nasira ng lindol yung business nung entity, tinulungan siya ng government, binigyan siya ng 50 million. So, si entity, i-record niya na yun agad as grant income niya. So, debit sa cash and then credit sa grant income kasi walang hinihinging kondisyon o kapalit dito si government. Itong example na to is under to ng repayment of government grant na related sa income. Yung repayment of government grant, nagkakaroon dito ng change in accounting estimate. Dito kasi si government, binabawi niya na yung grant na binigay niya kay entity. Dahil si entity hindi niya na meet fully yung condition na binigay ni government. So, basahin natin yung example. On January 1, 2016, an entity received 6 million as government grant to compensate for costs to be incurred in planting 100 trees every year in a reforestation area over a period of 3 years. So, yung matatanggap ni entity na grant galing kay government, gagamitin niya yon para ipambayad dun sa magagastos niya para sa pagtatanim ng puno sa loob ng 3 taon. And kailangan every year makapagtanim si entity ng 100 trees. Kaya lang, next na paragraph, on January 1, 2017, the entire amount of the government grant became repayable because the entity has never planted trees in 2016, which is a clear non-compliance of the conditions attached to the grant. So, after daw nung 2016, hindi na daw nagtanim ng puno si entity. Kaya nung January 1, 2017, nag-decide yung government na bawiin yung buong 6 million na ibinigay niya kay entity. So, yung tanong dito, magkakaroon ba ng loss si entity? Para malaman natin kung nagkaroon ng loss si entity, lagyan na natin ng entries. Noong January 1, nung na-receive niya yung grant, debit cash 6 million, then credit sa deferred grant income. Kasi utang niya muna yun kay government. Then, noong December 31, dahil nagtanim naman na si entity, meron na siyang na-earn. So, para makompute yung grant income, yung amount ng grant na ni-receive, divide lang sa useful life, which is a problem, 3 years. So, i-divide mo lang yung 6 million sa 3 equals 2 million. So, ibig sabihin, meron nang na-earn na 2 million si entity para sa year ng 2016. May natanim na siyang puno. So, kung kukumpute natin yung utang ni entity para sa taong 2016, meron na lang siyang utang kay government na 4 million. Dahil may na-earn na siyang 2 million ililas niya na lang yun sa utang niya na 6 million. So, a total of 4 million. Kaya lang, noong 2017, dahil nga hindi na nagtanim si entity noong 2016 pa lang, nag-decide si government na bawiin yung 6 million na binigay niya kay entity. So, syempre, diba yung utang niya kay government 4 million na lang? Kaya lang yung sinisingil sa kanya 6 million. So, magkakaroon siya ng loss kasi yung utang niya, sobra ibabayad niya, which is 2 million.
So, in accounting for grant related to asset, merong 2 methods. First is the primary method and alternative method. So, yung primary treated as an earned grant income, whereas the alternative naman as a deduction to the cost of asset acquired. Yung primary method, kadalasan tinatawag siya na gross method. Tapos yung alternative method naman, kadalasan tinatawag siyang net method. So, tignan natin yung table. So, yan. Pag nag-purchase ng assets sa primary and alternative, same lang sila. So, PPE, debit, cash, debit, same lang yung primary and alternative. Nagkakaiba lang sila sa pag-receive ng grant. Pag-record ng grant. So, dito sa primary method, yung grant na receive is treated as an earned grant income. Liability muna siya at na-realize lang kapag nag-start na mag-record ng expenses. So, cash, debit, and credit unearned grant income. Pero dito sa alternative, kung papapansin nyo, dinebit niya cash, pero in-offset niya sa asset. or PPE, diba? So, kapag titignan mo parang, okay or mas okay yung alternative method kasi nga wala ka ng liability, di ba? Kasi in-offset mo na siya sa PPE na pinurchase or inacquired mo. Tapos, kapag nag-realize na mo ng grant, dito sa primary, ganun pa rin. An earned grant income, debit, and grant income like what we usually do in the previous slides na pinag-aralan natin, hindi ba? Pero dito sa alternative, wala nang entry kasi nga naka-offset na siya sa depreciation expense. So, let's have an example. Example, a company received a grant of 16 million from the government to be used in constructing a building. The construction was completed on December 31, 2020 for a total cost of 40 million. The building will be depreciated over 20 years. So, in primary method and alternative method, yung pag-construct ng asset is same yung entry. PPE, debit, and credit cash. Pero pag-receive ng grant is doon sila nagkakaiba, diba? So, cash, sa primary method, cash debit, 16 million. Tapos, credit, unearned grant income, 16 million. Tapos, alternative method naman, cash debit, 16 million. Tapos, PPE, credit, 16 million. So, pag i-recognize na yung depreciation nila, ang mangyayari dito sa primary method, depreciation, 2 million, debit, tapos credit, accumulated depreciation, 2 million. Paano nangyari yun? Yung cost ng pag-construct ng building, or pag-construct ng building, total cost na is, diba, for 40 million, i-depreciate to yun over 20 years. So, 40 million divided by 20 years is 2 million. Kaya yun yung depreciation na na-recognize. Okay? So, for alternative method naman, yung entry is depreciation, debit, 1.2 million, tapos credit, accumulated depreciation, 1.2 million. Paano nangyari yun? Kasi nga, di ba, yung 40 million na construct mong asset, in-offset mo siya sa grant na na-receive mo. So, bale, yung 40 million less 60 million na grant na na-receive mo. So, 24 million na lang. Divided by 20 years of depreciation. So, 1.2 million. So, pag-record ng grant naman dito sa primary method, ganun pa rin. Unrealized grant income, 800,000, tas credit grant income, 800,000. So, paano nangyari yun? So, 16 million na grant na na-receive divided by 20 years. So, yun. Kasi nga, grant related to asset to. So, yung formula natin, wag niyong kakalimutan. Na yung formula natin is yung amount of grants over useful life. Yun yung formula ng related to asset. So, 800,000. Tapos, dito naman sa alternative, wala ka nang i-record or none kasi nga naka-offset na siya sa depreciation expense. So, ayun. So, ito yung parang graphical representation ng government grants. So, yung government grant daw, may dalawang classification. So, related to asset, tapos related to income or expenditure. So, dito sa asset muna tayo. So, sa asset naman, yun nga, napag-aralan natin kanina, sa kaninang slide na yung asset pwede siyang i-recognize as deferred income or i-deduct sa PPE, yung primary tas alternative method. So, yung grant received, katulad ng pinag-aralan natin, debit cash, tapos credit yung unearned grant income. Tapos dito naman sa alternative method, debit cash, tapos credit sa PPE. Tapos dito naman sa related to income for past cost incurred immediately recorded daw as income. Pero for current or future cost, i-ascertain kung in the period when costs are recognized. Pwede siyang other income and deduct from expenses.
Grant of interest-free loan. A forgivable loan from government is treated as government grant when there is a reasonable assurance that the entity will meet the forgiveness of the loan. FAS 20, paragraph 10 provides that the benefit of a government loan with a nil or below market rate of interest is treated as government grant. Paragraph IOA further provides that the benefit is measured as the difference between the face amount and the present value of the loan. So dito, si entity meron siyang utang kay government. So para matulungan ni government si entity, either hindi niya na pagbabayaran ng interest si entity or pagbabayarin niya pero bababaan niya naman. And dito rin, makukompute natin yung utang ni entity and yung amount din ng deferred rent income for the period. Para mas maintindihan natin yung grant of interest-free loan, basahin natin tong example. On January 1, 2016, an entity received an interest-free loan from the national government, 5 million, for a period of 3 years evidenced by a promissory note. The market rate of interest for similar loan is 5%. The present value of 1 at 5% for 3 periods is 0.8638. The government granted the interest-free loan provided the entity shall employ at least 40% of its workforce from the area where the entity is located over the next 3 years. The difference between the face amount of the loan and the present value is recognized as the discount on note payable and grant income to be amortized over the term of the loan of 3 years using the effective interest method. So dito, si entity meron siyang utang kay government na 5 million and si government hindi na siya pagbabayaran ng interest sa utang niya. So yung government grant usually long term siya kaya i-measure natin siya sa present value. And sabi dun sa huling paragraph na kapag na-compute na natin yung present value, makukompute na natin yung discount on notes payable and yung amortization or yung para dun sa interest expense. Kahit na hindi pinagbabayad ni government si entity ng interest, kailangan pa rin nating i-record yon. Kasi kapag utang, meron talaga ini-incur na interest. And i-offset naman yun dun sa total ng grant income, kaya at the end of the year, yung total ng interest is 0 pa rin. Kaya wala pa rin babayaran si entity para dun sa interest. So, para mas maintindihan natin, i-discuss natin to sa next slide. Ito na nga, gagamit tayo ng table dito para mas madali yung maging computation para dun sa utang, para dun sa interest expense kada period, and yung sa discount ng kada period. So, una natin computein yung present value. Yung present value, makukompute nyo siya gamit yung face amount ng utang, multiply nyo lang dun sa binigay na PB of 1 na 0.8638. So, yung total nun, 4,319,000. Then sabi dun sa huling paragraph, kapag na-compute mo na yung present value, makukompute mo na rin yung discount. Ang gagawin mo lang doon, yung total ng present value na na-compute mo, i-minus mo lang sa face amount, which is yung 5 million. So yung total nun, 681,000. And after mo makompute yung discount on notes payable, makukompute mo na rin dito yung interest expense kada year. Gagawin mo lang dito yung present value, imumultiply mo lang siya dun sa effective interest na binigay, which is yung 5%. So yung total nun, 215,950. So, para makompute yung 2016 na discount, ima-minus mo lang yung na-compute mo dun sa naunang sa beginning year, then yung interest expense para dun sa end of the year, so yung total nun is 465,050. So, para makompute mo yung present value para sa end nung 2016, i-add mo lang yung na-compute mong discount dun sa beginning ng present value. So, 4,319,000 plus 465,050, yung total nun, 400,534,950. So, ganun lang din yung mga susunod na period. Ituloy-tuloy nyo lang yung gawin yun, guys. So, entryhan natin yung notes na utang natin. Credit nyo lang yun na 5 million. Siyempre, may marireceive ka doon. Kaya cash, discount on note payable, i-debit natin yan. 681,000. Then, dun sa 681,000, yun din yung magiging deferred grant income ng entity. Ngayon naman, entryhan naman natin yung interest expense na na-incur ni entity ng 2017. Yung 2017, meron siyang na-incur na expense na total of 226,748. And credit lang natin yun sa discount on notes payable. Dahil meron na tayong expenses, ibig sabihin lang din nun, meron na rin tayong dapat i-recognize na income. So, kung ano yung ni-record nyo dun sa expense, yun na rin yung i-record nyo sa income. So, debit sa deferred grant income, 226,748. Then, credit sa grant income na 226,748. So, para sa 2018 naman, ganun din, i-record yung interest expense na na-incur para sa period na yan. Then, magre-recognize ng grant income. Then dito, dahil babayaran na ni entity yung utang niya kay government, magkikredit siya ng cash kasi yun yung ipambabayad niya. So, kung mapapansin nyo dito guys, sabi kasi ng standard, yung interest expense, i-offset siya doon sa grant income. So, kapag in-offset natin yan, yung total niyan, 0. Kaya, ang ibig sabihin nun, walang babayaran na interest si entity. Ganun din sa 2018, kapag in-offset mo yung interest expense din sa grant, 0 yung kakalabasan.
So, government assistance. So, sabi nga kanina, nung nag-start tayo, yung government assistance is an action by government designed to provide an economic benefit specific to an entity or range of entities qualifying under certain criteria. The essence of government assistance is that no value can reasonably be placed upon it. So, di ba nga, kanina sabi sa government grant, yung government grants, in-exclude nyo yung government assistance na mahirap lagyan ng halaga or value. So, itong government assistance na to, mahirap siyang lagyan ng halaga or value. Yung mga example nito na mahirap lagyan ng halaga or value is the free technical or marketing advice, provision of guarantee, government procurement policy that is responsible for a portion of the entity's sales, and government assistance does not include the following indirect benefits or benefits not specific to an entity. So, like infrastructure and development areas such to the general transport and communication network, imposition of trading constraints on competitors, and improved facilities such as irrigation for the benefit of an entire local community.
Disclosures about government grant. Ito yung mga important information na kailangan maipakita ni entity kapag naka-receive siya ng grant galing kay government. Una na nga rito, the accounting policy adopted for government grant, including the method of presentation adopted in the financial statement. Dito, kailangan lang ma-disclose or ma-indicate na entity kung ano yung method na ginamit niya. Like for example, gumamit ba siya ng gross method or net method, or di naman kaya dinidak niya dun sa carrying amount ng asset, etc. Next, the nature and extent government grant recognized in the financial statement and an indication of other forms of government assistance from which the entity has directly benefited. Dito, i-indicate lang ni entity kung anong klaseng grant yung na-receive niya, ano yung purpose nun, and kung meron bang inattach na condition dun si government. Next, unfulfilled conditions and other contingency attaching to government assistance that has been recognized. Dito, i-indicate lang ni entity kung fully na ba niyang na-meet yung condition, and in case na hindi pa, kailangan niya rin ma-indicate yon. So, note lang dyan sa huling paragraph na si entity hindi naman required na indicate niya pa yung name ng agency ng government pati yung date. So, kahit yung tatlo lang na nabanggit ko kanina, yung ma-indicate niya dun sa grant na na-receive niya galing kay government. So, ayan. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Salamat po at naglaan kayo ng oras para sa amin. And sana po natulungan namin kayo. Yun lamang po. Bye-bye. Thank you.